I'm director of the International Peace Studies program at the University for Peace, which is my program. So it's with a lot of joy that I welcome you back to speak with us this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. So let's get the presentation going. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about decolonizing peace. And I start this with another story that is not as cute as my daughter, which, by the way, it was not napkins, it was toilet paper, but I didn't want to, you know. So now you have the full story. So when I was 25 years old, a long time ago, I was seconded by my country, France, to work for the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe as a democratization officer in Bosnia. So I got to Bosnia at 25, and I had to be a democratization officer. And I didn't know really what it meant, and I still don't know today. So I got to Vienna and then to Bosnia, and they told me, check it on the website. And so I checked it on the website, and then I figured out that I had to do women empowerment, I had to do youth capacity building, and politicians democratization. So I was supposed to teach to talk to politicians who were 50 years old, who had maybe 25, 30 years experience, and tell them how to do politics in a democratic way. And somehow I thought there was something fundamentally wrong with that. And that was the first time I experienced myself as a colonizer. And that's what led me to write this book, Decolonizing Peace. So I'm going to I stand accused as a United Nations person. I believe that liberal peace building, which I talked about yesterday, is, let's say, a remnant of colonization. We are evangelizing the rest of the world according to the peace that we think is our victor's peace, the peace that we think everybody should be practicing. And of course, we see here that it's a little different. So if we could get to the next slide. This is the peace that we have for the moment. And as you can see, it's heavily technical and heavily somehow, compartmentalized. We talk about different areas within which we can intervene. We love to talk about intervention. And I guess that if we reduce this whole GAMIP concept to opening ministries for peace, then it's going to be just another line in one of those boxes, and it's going to be also co-opted by power. So what I can see from that conference is that it's a lot more than that story, obviously, because if this is the only story, we are recreating more of the same. Let me get to the next slide. Of course, as we can see in practice, everything is very compartmentalized. And somehow, this makes us look like a country in crisis, as if we were going to fix a car. So we're going to throw in a democratic process. That was me, inexperienced democratic process. We're going to throw in a few human rights charter and throw in some talk about development. And eventually, we're going to fix the car and it's going to run. And we know very well that it doesn't work that way. And we know very well that we are human beings and collectives that are part of an organic system. And that if we don't see each other as a system and ourselves within a system, we're not going to get anywhere in relation to the peace that we actually want to build and that we actually want to enact. So if we get to the next slide. So what I did was that I took off my Cartesian lenses, you know, Descartes. I took off my mechanical lenses or modernist lenses. And by the way, I was in the same school as Descartes, but we were a few years apart. So I took off those lenses and I took the lenses of chaos theory. And what do I have when I do that? I basically look at the world in a more complex way. And I look at the world as a system, as an organic system. And so I'm not going to, give you a lecture on chaos theory, but I just want you to visualize what this is. This is the formation of a vortex, the formation of a tornado. And what it tells us is that for a tornado to form, there needs to be, at the bottom there, you see those little loops, there needs to be stabilizing elements. And then some sort of elements that are going to amplify the tornado, that are a shared repertoire of communal resources sometimes. And then we're going to have what we call, let's say, a strange attractor, which is enacted here as our mutual engagement for peace and our common vision. And so I just thought that if we look at what we're doing in peace initiatives through the lens of chaos, we might understand what we're doing a little more, and we might be able to, let's say, foster what we're doing in a more productive way. And I think that infrastructures for peace is very special because it caters to all the different elements, all the different complex elements of chaos theory that allow us to be a lot more holistic and connected than in a mechanical vision of, let's say, peace. So if we can get to the next one. So what I've done with that new set of lenses is to go across the world and actually find initiatives on the ground that require no Western graduate like me, no SUV, and no money, and that are completely sustainable and that are working on their own without me, the French person, telling them what to do. And guess what? I found them everywhere. Because when you lose that pair of Cartesian lenses, you see that there is peace happening everywhere, and that we no longer need to talk about peace building, because eventually, peace building is no tabula rasa. Peace building is not something that I come and build somewhere in Burkina Faso. Peace is already there in Burkina Faso, and what do I do to actually recognize this, right? So I just took, the first example that I took was Anonymous, the network of hackers that is self-organized and working without any hierarchy and any international money and any money whatsoever. And I looked at their different operations into what I call a turbulence. And the turbulence is the first step into the vortex that I showed just before. Can we get to the next slide? And then different turbulences connect to one another, and this is what we call a community of practice. So when we talk about a culture of peace, we talk about a community of people that actually have a shared vision, and actually that are going to expand this shared vision as a network. And so they no longer exist on their own, but they exist as a mutual interdependence of another. And this is what, to me, is so interesting about, let's say, this new Anonymous and WikiLeaks kind of a network. If we can go next. So another example that I found, and this is another vortex, is the Gulabi gang in India. And this is, they're called the Pink Sari gangs. And it's a group of women and men who actually are challenging the patriarchal structure of their own state. And you see again how the different elements of chaos theory allow us to make sense of what's happening. And again, it gives us a much more holistic picture of where do we stand as well as a Westerner. And here, of course, we don't stand anywhere. But, at least we understand what's going on. Maybe in the media, maybe as an amplifier we do. Next. And here comes the 3 stages of what I call decolonizing peace. And this is what we call a system of influence. So let's remember, we start as a network. We emerge as a community of practice, which is the vortex. And then we move towards a system within a system within a system. And that's the system of influence. And this is really where Infrastructures for Peace is at the crossroads, because it really is on the verge of becoming a system of influence throughout the world. And I think that from that perspective, the work that you're going to do here during this summit is recognizing all those different initiatives that exist everywhere and recognizing how they are connected and how they can move forward. So if you look at, that's on the top right, if you look at systems within systems, you can see how we all interconnected and how we all, let's say, feed off one another. If we can go to the next one. And this was just to give you an idea of another way to understand what we do is what we call the panarchy of living systems. And it's basically showing us that every human initiative has different stages. And that if you let's say, act at a stage, maybe it might have different consequences because maybe that stage is not ready to receive whatever action you have to give. And so it's important for us to understand the environments in which we sometimes collaborate, because is that environment ready for us or not? And I'm not going to go too much into that. Then we can go to the next one. And this was just for us to understand systems within systems. This is a case that I found in Somaliland, which was really amazing. It's a woman, her name is Samawada. She's been raising children without, again, international money or SUV for the last 20 years. She's been raising more than, I've checked at the break, more than 250 children who were born out of wedlock and who were abandoned. And she's doing it through communal kind of bonding elements, such as care, such as people giving their time, people giving whatever they have to give to those children in other ways than giving money, which is, I think, what Charles is going to talk about later on, so it's very connected. And if we can go to the last one. And that is my little pitch for today. I found another network of people who are working for their own peace in their own environment, and they're in the Pelican Bay Detention Center, the Pelican Bay Prison in the US. It is one of the most, let's say, the most vile environments that exist in the world. The human rights of those detainees are completely, let's say, denied to them. Alex has been in solitary confinement for 20 years. And what they've done together is that, for being a gang member of the Salvadorian gangs, and what they've done together in their cells without being able to communicate to one another is to organize their own hunger strikes, to ask for their own, let's say, for better detention conditions. So those initiatives that we find everywhere in the world, they also exist on our doorsteps, and we just have to change our lenses and find them and recognize them and then try to support them and amplify them in any way that we can. So I wanted to leave you the address here of Alex. He loves to receive postcards and mail. There's a post office right across the road, and I would love to, for this conference, to crowdsource him, and and just for everybody to write to him and say, "Hi from Geneva. I don't know you, but good luck with your hunger strike." And so, you can write his address if you want to write to him. And that's all I had to say for today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. And I forgot to mention that this part of the afternoon is about conceptualizing infrastructure for peace. So to give that a little bit of structure before bringing up the next presenter. And before I do that, also, I want to just take 2 quick minutes for any reflections, very briefly. So are we all familiar with Twitter? We know what a tweet is, 140 characters. So if there are any comments, you'll have time for questions, about an hour's worth of questions in a little while. So just any comments very briefly around the room? Anyone? You stumped them all. Deafening silence.
There's one.
There's one. One tweet.
I'm afraid with a deafening silence, I don't know how to sign, so I'll have to talk out loud. No, I love the idea of translating that into chaos theory and using the chaos theory for something as constructive as that. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next tweet.
Is it possible also to send a postcard